I've done some insane challenges over the years, beating games without healing, solo characters, or using the worst ability in the whole game, taking nearly 2 years to do. But this will honestly be the hardest challenge I've ever done. Why? Because my knowledge for Final Fantasy XII is actually rather limited. It's one of the games I have the least knowledge on. From a more action-based combat to horrifying MMO levels of RNG for drop rates. Heck, there are items in this game with a 1 in 10,000 chance to get. And since the title has already given it away, can we beat Final Fantasy XII using only items? Well, before we get to the rules, I need to give 2 very special shout-outs to members of the community who have helped me with some, aka a lot of knowledge. Our resident FF12 experts, Aru and Levin from our Discord server. These 2 have been an insane help, so please don't pick apart this run and bully me in the comments. So, let's talk rules. Rule 1. Just like in all my other challenges, as we can't actually follow our primary rule during the tutorial, the run will officially begin after the tomato hunt, or about 3 minutes into the actual game. However, I am not allowed to kill anything that is not mandatory progression-wise before then. Rule 2. We must use items for everything. This means healing, damage, cleansing, etc. We are not allowed to use any abilities, magic, or summons. Rule 3. Gambits are allowed to be used, however, they must follow Rule 2 still. Rule 4. Guest characters are totally uncontrollable and as such must be killed ASAP so they don't interfere in the challenge. Rule 5. If I also promise right now to do trial mode, then I think that deserves a like, right? Honestly, I regret this rule already and I've only just typed it. But hey, more content for you guys, I guess. I would also try Yizamat, but 50 million HP is just far too much for items to handle on their own. Now, with that out of the way, let's begin. And our absolute first order of business is we need to get the diamond armlet. We literally can't start this run without it. There are 2 ways. The first is a treasure chest from trial mode stage 1, but that requires killing the rats to keep it, and we have no items, so that is out of the question. This means our only other chance relies on a treasure chest in the Wester Sands, surrounded by mobs who can one-shot me. Oh, and I only have a 25% chance of the chest even spawning. So yeah, that's how this run is going to go. I also get my first job with Vaughn and decide to make him a Shikari because I want the free remedy lore licenses on him. Oh, and we already have our first death before I even get to the armor. In fact, I get multiple deaths doing so. I need a new strategy here as I'm getting hammered. So let's instead get some dark modes. The treasure chest these spawn in appears 60% of the time and has a 40% chance to have Gil in it. Luckily, this chest is located right next to the entrance to Giza Plains. You see, there's 2 ways to respawn treasure chests in this game. Change area completely, or move 3 screens away. This means we can rotate between Giza Plains and the Wester Sand, where the dark moat is pretty easily allowing us to farm somewhat decently. But make no mistake, this item is pretty damn weak and sadly guarded by something pretty damn strong. But as a bonus, we can double dip the items in Giza Plains in the Starfall field area. This lets us farm some potions, and it has a treasure chest with Dark Moat and Phoenix Downs. All the chests in this section have the same RNG chances as well. 70% chance to spawn and 45% chance to have Gil in them. It's at this point I get a little confused as the chests are respawning with only moving one screen away in the Giza Plains. So I actually just stay here to farm the items I need. And make no mistake, even being careful, this took hours upon hours, and I had well over 50 deaths by the time I got 99 of each of them. At least on the bright side, I did get a bunch of gil doing this. Sadly, not enough for what we need though, so we're going to get some extra money from the sponsor of today's video. Demon School, a new tactical RPG that is a must-play for all Disgaea and Final Fantasy Tactics fans. Filled with side quests and a light horror story theme, and contains really unique mechanics like the rewind system. Avoid objects, strike your opponents with huge combos, and dash around the battlefield. Play as Faye, the last of her demon hunting family, who just loves a good punch-up. But it's not all about battles. Explore the island with different mysteries, morning, noon, and night. Plan out your university semester schedule to enhance skills, recruit new teammates, and even advance the relationships between characters. Demon School releases November 18th and is the ultimate pick-me-up for anybody waiting for the new Tactics release. Learn more at the link below. Now, with my new items, I'm going to give up on getting the diamond armlet from the Wester Sand, and instead we'll get it from stage 1 of trial mode. So I save the game, go into trial mode, open the treasure chest to the left of the starting area, and then use dark motes to kill the rats before dying in stage 2. Once I've done that, I load the autosave normally, which puts me back into the game with the items I had on the autosave, aka the diamond armlet, and then just save normally. However, we don't have the license to use it now, so let's repeat this step a couple of times, as each time I kill the rats, I get 2 LP each kill. I also get an extra diamond armlet each time, meaning I get 1 to sell for an awesome 6,000 gil a time, something that will be highly important. Once we have it though, it's time to farm our first usable item, Knots of Rust. And this item is honestly hot garbage, but it's pretty much the only item we can get an infinite amount of throughout the game, meaning we're going to be using this basically forever. It has 0 delay, meaning it does get used instantly. However, its damage is based on the user's maximum HP. You take that and divide it by a random number between 1 and 10. For example, if I have 100 max HP and the knot rolls a 5, then the damage is 100 divided by 5, aka 20 damage. If it rolls a 1, then it's 100 divided by 1, aka 100. So straight off the bat, can you see how much trouble this is going to be? Oh, and also, with treasure chests in this game, there's a few other levels of randomness. Firstly, we need to win an RNG roll for the chest to spawn. Second, we need to win an RNG roll for it to be an item or gil. Thirdly, if we win the item roll, there's another RNG chance to decide if it's the normal item or the rare item. When using the diamond armlet, we have a 95% chance for the common item and 5% chance for the rare item. Yeah, like I said earlier, this is quite literally RNG the game. So, let's go farm 99 of them, shall we? And we'll cry the entire time doing it. We'll be doing this in the Giza Plains again. Why? Because I hate free time. So while we're here, we're also going to farm for Meteorite A and Meteorite B. These two items both have different effects. A is kinda useless, but it inflicts sap when used. B gives the disease status. Oh, and the meteorites count as rare items, so they have a 5% chance if I succeed at getting the item RNG on the treasure chest spawn. I got 29 A's and like 7 B's before I completely gave up the plan to get a bunch of these. By this point, I got tired of being scared of literally any mob here, so we're actually going to return to Robinosta for now, as we're going to get the monographs. So, we speak to a weapon merchant 30 times as this unlocks the Knight monograph. We're going to read the Hunt bulletin board 40 times for War Mages monograph and Dragons. Speak to the Mage vendor 25 times to get another, an Armor vendor 15 times, and then just any shop an extra 30 times for the Sages monograph. After all this, the only one we need is Hunters, but to get that we need to complete the Fexteria hunt, so we'll get that later. Now, let's get some actual HP so we can survive, and this is by far the best time possible to do this. We are of course going to do the Dustier trick by lowering our HP down to red so Dustier will spawn in the Wester Sands, and then we're going to kill it with Phoenix Downs, abusing the wait action mode with the speed set to slowest, freezing the game to check for drops while we slowly level up and increase our HP. The benefit of doing this now is that all characters who will join in the future will be based off of Von's level, and since pretty much all of our items are based on HP, yeah, this is going to be important for the whole game basically. We do this until I have 99 Books of Organ, and then I go sell them off at an Albina, thinking I can buy Phoenix Downs, but sadly I can't do that until Pinello joins the party, which happens soon. So it just means we use 99 Phoenix Downs on Dustier for now. Once that's done and all the useless stuff is sold, we have over 100,000 gil. Don't get too happy, that's not even close to enough, and I'll actually be broke in a few hours. I also use the abundance of LP on the license board, getting as much HP as possible. This, combined with the levels, means we now have 1,800 HP. Yeah, again, don't get too happy. Our healing and damage potential is still horrid after all, but is enough for the next couple of sections. Then we're going to move over to the Giza Plains, specifically Tome Hills. Here we can find the Meteorite Sea. This one is interesting. Not only is it worth an insane 20,000 gil, but it also deals damage. It deals a random value between 0 and the user's max HP. So it has an insane damage range, but has potential for some good damage. It's going to be difficult, but this is going to be our emergency item for when things go horribly wrong. And if you have seen me play FF12 before, yeah, you know it's absolutely going to. In the end though, I can only stomach getting 16 of them, and even this took me 4 hours. But for now, I'm finally done with item grinding. For now, this was the baby grind. This run is essentially going to have about 30 to 35 massive item RNG farms, and that's not counting when I have to actually go ahead and refill items I've used. Also, in the Westersand Shimmering Horizon location, we can actually get Meteorite D. Aside from this thing being notoriously rare, like seriously, this is MMO levels of rare, it's worth a massive 60,000 gil, and it has a 50% chance to do 30,000 damage. The other 50% of the time, it does a random value between 0 and 9,999. The downside? Well, the treasure chest only has a 2% chance to spawn, 40% chance to have gil, and then finally, the meteorite has 5% chance to drop. What does this mean? Well, it means I have a 0.06% chance to get it. AKA, that's 1 in 1,667 chance. So yeah, I don't quite think we're going to play the lottery just yet, and we're going to completely ignore this one. So for now, let's continue on with the story and do the quest at the Giza Plains where Pinello joins. And then we simply complete the Sunstone quest without fighting at all to save as many items as possible. Then in the waterway before the palace, I also farm air motes from a treasure chest. Just make sure to unequip the diamond armlet first. Now I have air emotes for wind damage, dark motes for dark damage, and my other items for physical damage. We're slowly building up an elemental arsenal here. Now we just continue on with the story, doing the palace puzzles. Thankfully, no items to farm here, just some one-time treasure chests and plenty of cutscenes. Also, let's not talk about how many times I messed up the palace puzzle by trying to rush. Anyway, after a little while, we have new characters, Fran and Balthier. We also get the gambit system unlocked finally, so I create some very simple gambits. Namely, I just use potion on anybody under 50% HP and attack any foes with knots of rust and dark motes. Not ideal, but enough for now. Then we save the very obvious princess that everybody in the Huntress would surely know, considering the giant wedding that was going to take place, but no. Anywho, we throw some things at some slimes a little later in the sewer before they slink away, and then towards the end, before we leave the sewer, we're going to farm more items. Yay. Unequip the diamond armlet, and then we can farm Soleil Fangs. This is a fire damage type item. And speaking of fire types, that's our next boss, an actual living fire horse who sadly lasts less than a minute. Realistically though, I'm not sure anybody is surprised. The entire Robin Oster section, at least in my opinion, is a glorified tutorial. And then we get casually hauled off to jail. Lovely. Even worse though, we lose all our gear and items. Silver lining though, there's actually a few treasure chests in the first prison section where we can grab just a couple knots of rust. We seriously need to make these count. So I use just Van to use them in the next fight with 3 mobs. He has enough HP that he one-shots them on a pretty horrid roll, albeit barely, and we even had 1 spare as well. Right after that fight though, we don't need to worry as much as we get all our items and equipment back. So now, we just kinda cruise for a little bit through the prison and meet our lovely captain, Bosch von Ronsenberg. Now, right after this in Barheim Passage, things are going to get interesting. Very interesting. Why? Well, in the first area, we have a 40% chance for a treasure chest to spawn, which also has a 55% chance to have Gil in it. But with no diamond armlet, we can get balance modes. Now, balance is essentially minor strike from FF9. It deals damage based on the difference of a character's HP and their maximum HP. This essentially means one of 2 things. The first is it's going to absolutely be useless, so the time I spent here farming them is going to be completely and utterly wasted. Or the second thing, which is it's going to be a massive godsend later on when I have much better gambits and control of my HP, among having higher HP pools. I'm hoping it will really show its worth, but right now, I'm a little skeptical. Also, the shop here has a bunch of gambits for sale. I also fill up on antidotes and buy a bunch of Phoenix Downs. At this point, I also decide to do my job licenses for Balthier and Fran, who I give Monk to Balthier and Archer to Fran. Obviously, we only really care about the HP and support skills here, but I also make sure to grab some gambit slots as well, so we can actually start getting a somewhat decent set of gambits set up, and get some accessory upgrades so everybody can at least equip the bangle for Libra, so I can see weaknesses. And then we just rush through Barheim. There are some pretty decent items here we can get, but honestly, I just don't want to farm 5% drop chances. So we're going to leave that for later, as right now we're okay. We have a healthy supply of items to last us, and we have decent HP pools. Once we get to the Mimic Queen though, we have a problem. I've ran out of knots of rust. It's not the end of the world, as I do have other items, but Jesus, I ran out way faster than I expected by killing things inside the passage for LP. Like, way faster than I expected. This is going to prove to be a massive problem, I think, as the game goes on. especially once mob HP starts to bloat later on and we're throwing tons and tons of items out to kill one mob. I think this is going to become a much longer process than I initially gave it credit for when I decided to do this run. We're already close to 40 hours at this point, and we're not even at Lushu yet. I think the best thing I can really do at this point is to just bite the bullet, farm up my items again until I have 99 of everything, and then just try to avoid killing as many things as possible. Otherwise, I can easily see myself running out non-stop, meaning I need to keep farming over and over and over again. And while I know I have the title of Grind King, I seriously dread to think what the end numbers could be time-wise if I did that. However, while filling up my items, well, this happened. Remember that meteorite deer I was telling you about earlier? You know, the item we essentially had 1 in 2,000 chance to get? Well, we freaking got one. This is now hands down my emergency oh shit button. So we're likely gonna save it all game. It's also at this point I debate on doing the hunt or not, but decide against it for now. We might do them later though. Once that's done in Robin Oster, we head to the Gambit store as we can now buy every single Gambit in the game, except for 2. We have to wait until Ash joins properly before they become available, but that's okay, we don't really need to worry about those 2 for now. And this is going to allow us to really set some cool things up later once we get more LP to unlock more Gambit slots. For now though, let's just move on, and Lushu Mines is up next for us. And once again, we have a pretty big item farm to do here. The first screen of the mines, we can farm aqua motes for water damage. Then, in the last screen, and this is important, we need to do this before the cutscene with Mark Zuckerberg, as once we do the story events here, those treasure chests vanish. And since we can easily and quickly farm Dispel motes, Cure motes, Gravity motes, and high potions here, yeah, we want to build up while we can, especially Cure and Dispel. These will be worth their weight in gold, I feel. While we're here, since the area is full of skeletons and undead mob, we can easily buy Phoenix Downs just outside the mines. Well, to me, this seems like arguably the best chance I have for farming LP, where I don't have to waste 600 hours farming items. Do you catch my drift? So, I set my Gambits up to heal my party below 50% HP using a potion, cure poison with an antidote, revive me if I die with a Phoenix Down, and then to target undead mobs with a Phoenix Down. So now, while running through the mines, grabbing the items, we're also going to farm the skeletons for enough LP to complete the first license board. Why so much? Because this is probably the only time I can actually get a worthwhile LP farm that won't take me years to finish. It doesn't help us when we unlock our second job board, but at least we get all the Gambit slots. I do also add on to the Gambits though to kill the annoying bats with Knot of Rust. I will add, this took freaking ages, literally ages. We were limited to basically 99 LP a run. Each run took about 6 minutes. We needed a casual 50 plus runs. At least we got a decent amount of assassin's daggers to sell among other pieces of gear. Honestly, I don't even know if I'm going to need these motes or this kind of quantity, but I really don't know FF12 as much as other titles, so I'm just trying to prepare for all scenarios really. And this is kind of the last time that I can think of where we're going to be fighting low HP mobs for an easy LP farm. This is also a good point to talk about Gambit and the license board, I think. For license boards and jobs, there's only a few we want, which I slightly touched on earlier, but let's go a little more in depth. We want Monk for as much HP as possible. Potion laws and remedy laws, which Shikari and Archers have, and also Phoenix law, which Archer has the most of. Obviously, weapons don't matter in this run, which means when broken down, everybody will have one of their 2 jobs be monk. Then we're going to have 3 shikari and 3 archers. I could spread the jobs out a little more dependent on gear, but I honestly have no idea what we can even get gear-wise without steel or heavily relying on the bazaar right now, which means a ton of farming. So this plan might screw me, or it might be okay. I have no idea, so I'm going to find out along with you. As for gambits, this also means all 6 characters can be set up the same way. I'm only doing Balthier and Fran for now, but I'll do Bosch, Pinello and Ash later when we have them all. For this, we're going to of course have healing, status cleanse and damage spread out to mitigate as much item waste as possible. It was during this time I completely underestimated just how many gambits I'd actually need. So, we're going to have 1 heavy damage dealer, 1 healer and 1 50-50 character. This will change later as I get more items, but it's a good starting point. Van is set up to heal if he drops below 20% HP, targets undead with a Phoenix down, and then targets mobs with a weakness and their corresponding item. If he has less than 30% HP, then he'll use a balance mode, as I'm likely in trouble at that stage. And finally, we have target anything with a Knot of Rust if it doesn't meet the above conditions. Balthier is designed to revive anybody dead, heal anybody at 30% or below HP with a Cure remote since it has a little AoE, and then the same attack setup that Van has, except no Knot of Rust on this one. As for Fran, she heals anybody below 70% with a potion, making use of those potion laws, below 40% with a high potion, and reviving anybody dead. After that, she's permanently on status cleanse duty. We'll be able to free some of these up later as we start to get equipment with immunity and remedies. For now though, we get items, we'll just add them into the gambits. Also, I'll set up Bosch up later when I get Pinello and Ash in the party. Now, when we get to Mark Zuckerberg, I check their health and decide I can't fight them as they don't have insanely high HP. But then I get confused. If I'm not mistaken, I completely one-shot them, but I didn't see any weakness. Although, since the Aqua Moat was used, I'm guessing they are weak to water. I was actually expecting to have to use 10 to 20 Knots of Rusts to get the meme win, but I guess not. If anybody could shed light on this, I will love you greatly. So, once we're finally done here, we get to move on to I am Bosch von Ronsenberg. Don't believe Ondor's lies. Seriously, cringe moment game. Very cringe. Then we get kidnapped to the Dreadnought Leviathan though, and once again it's item farming time. I know, who cares about touching grass and having a laugh right now? We have items to farm. Throughout this place, we can get armor like Ringmail and Shepherd's Bolero, Blue Fangs, and even Reflectiga motes, which you bet your butt we're farming 99 of these. If I remember correctly, Reflect is insanely helpful in this game, so yeah. As for the mock boss in here, an ambush of guards, well, we actually got near perfect RNG rolls on our knot damage, taking all out in one hit except for one person who survived the first one. The downside is I only have like 12 knots left at this point because of them being used during my Reflect mode farm, and we have another boss coming up not long after we rescue Ash and Pinello. Judge Geese. And he comes with 3 other soldiers with him as well. And of course he uses Protect. I have no idea if it lowers damage from knots, but since they deal physical damage, I imagine it does. Luckily enough, and I do mean lucky, we had just enough knots left over to defeat the swordsman and him before we ran out. Sure, I could have used my motes, but I'd rather save them as they are much harder to stock up on, while knots can be obtained from 99.9% of treasure chests in the game. In the Sandsea, there are some good items. The downside is they all suck to farm because they're miles away from screen changes. We will, however, farm some Lightning Fangs, which are in the Central Junction, and will finally give us lightning damage. We also absolutely need to grab the Golden Amulet, which doubles the LP earned for the person equipped with it. At the Tomb of Rothwell, we have our next boss, Garuda. And this is actually super simple. Why? It's horribly weak to dark, which means our dark mode Gambit comes out to play, dealing about 600 damage a use. And since we have 2 characters using it, a casual 1200 damage a turn pretty much, so it only lasts a minute or so. Man, though, I am really going to miss these easy bosses when I'm stuck constantly healing and cleansing later, especially once we get to trial mode. I'm not looking forward to that one. Now, let's talk Tomb of Wraithwall. Realistically, there's not much here we want or need. We can get warp motes and aeriger motes along with some gear and other motes we already have, and there is a single hastiger mote in here as well, which we'll save for later. Other than that, it's just Demon Wall fights and then Belias. Demon Wall though, I got seriously unlucky. Firstly, Vossler got X-zoned, but nobody cares about him. Secondly, my knots of rust were doing basically nothing. Like, seriously, nearly every knot rolled a 10 or a 9 for how the damage division, aka we were doing like 500 damage on every attack. He got to the halfway point before he finally succumbed, and we even have to do another one later. The second one, however, totally emptied out my knots of rust, so I had to resort to manually using items. As for Belias, well, I went into the fight with oil on 2 characters. Belias is fire, so yeah, pretty dumb move on my part here. However, on the bright side, he is weak to water, which means my Aquero motes actually did pretty damn decent damage, ranging from 1000 to 2000 each, meaning the fight only lasted about 40 seconds, and thankfully he was too busy trying to buff himself instead of trying to kill me. We're not done yet though, we still have Vossler left to fight. Now, this was mighty annoying. Firstly, Fran starts off in Berserk, so we have to kill her while not remembering that Balthier is set to heal her. Once that's done, we can revive her and she won't be in Berserk anymore, which I didn't know until right now. I thought she was just permanently Berserked for this fight. I also thought Reflector mode, as I was pretty sure Vossler used magic a lot, but I didn't actually see him use a spell at all. After that, he started to smack away at me while I used Aquero modes on him, but the damage was incredibly lacking. Once my HP got to about halfway, I decided to use balance motes just so I could try and save my other items, but annoyingly, these motes missed every single time. Is balance considered gravity in this game and doesn't work on bosses or something? That's a genuine question, by the way. Remember earlier when I said 12 is my least knowledgeable? Yeah, I wasn't kidding. After this little failed experiment, I decided to just use our newly maxed Aeriger motes, which deal a nice 1500 to 2000 damage to him, which gets us through the fight and ends it pretty quickly from that point on. Now we have a little chill session, by which I mean we once again spend hours refilling our items. Yay! Oh, and stock up on new items along the way, like Biomote and X Potions. At this point, I now think we have enough items, so we're going to be skipping trash mobs and just going for bosses. I just don't want to farm items anymore. It's honestly getting kinda soul destroying. So now, we visit a nice little village of monsters, grab a chocobo for some shortcuts, so we can head to my favourite place ever. Well, after the creepy as hell forest anyway. Erut Village. Totally not, because it's full of bunny girls. Okay, I mean, that's totally not the reason. In Henmind, we take a total beating on the way to Tiamat. I was forced to stop and kill things just so I could heal up and, well, not die. The jellies were also hell on earth due to my fire fangs just constantly missing. Once we get to Tiamat, we have a couple of problems. Firstly, I only protected Von against Disable, and Tiamat has Disabler. I also have not properly set up Fran's Gambits for status cleansing, as I keep forgetting to, so I have to manually cleanse Petrify. And lastly, he has no weakness, which means Knots of Rust. I do also heal him by accident because I'm a dum-dum, but once again, this is the return of terrible RNG rolls on the nuts. Fron was constantly healing me, and I had to use an X potion at one point as well, because I never noticed I got sapped. We eventually got there though, after once again using way too many Knots of Rust. Are you guys seeing the same pattern I am here? every boss is absolutely murdering my item count, and we're not even halfway through the game yet. Now, we need to head to Mount Baomasace, and we're actually going to skip a fight against the Elder Worm by heading through the Feywood instead. I'm not exactly worried about the boss, I'm just worried about the 2-hour item grind we'd likely have to do after it. So let's skip it entirely. And yes, I totally got lost by trying to take this shortcut, and also nearly died. Twice. Once by some overgrown cats, and then again while trying to heal when I got blindsided by some sentient tomatoes. But hey, we actually found our way, eventually. And now we can head to the Still Shrine, where, well, I got lost a lot. Like, a lot. Not only that, mobs now are getting a good decent amount of health, and I'm doing very little damage overall, but they're hitting me like trucks. Honestly, I really should have upgraded my gear in Baomasace, but I completely forgot. Likewise, I also haven't actually got the second license board yet. Eventually, I luckily stumble upon the next boss, Vinoscure. I'm also slowed a little by having metallic equipment on, but that doesn't really pose much problem. Luckily, I was able to heal up as well just as the boss got to me. He has no weaknesses sadly, but it's okay. He doesn't actually have a huge amount of HP. Combined with the fact I actually got some truly incredible RNG rolls on my Knots of Rust, including some max damage ones. He actually went down in about 15 knots, which is quite good as I've used a few in the dungeon already at this point, so I probably have about 40 left, give or take. That's not the final boss here though, so I'm just hoping and praying the next Esper, Matthias, has a weakness, but I'm not holding my breath on that one. And of course, I was right not to. Now, a lot happens here and it's gonna be tough to explain in real time. But firstly, there's a bunch of ads here, so I try to thin them out a little with Aeriga. I was greatly tempted to put Reflect up, but with them all being ice mobs and casting ice spells, I really didn't want them to heal themselves. We also had to really break into our bag of tricks here. Firstly, my knots were terrible and we completely ran out of them. For some reason, my friend was doing nothing but standing there and not really healing for some reason. I think it's because I have a gambit in the wrong order though, so I'll ignore that for now. We also break out our Meteorite Seas here, which, again, was a bag of mixed results. We got a few amazing hits, but a few truly terrible hits. Then, my gambits started to spam aquarium motes for like 200 damage, so I started to manually use Aeriga motes with all 3 characters. I also dispelled the boss's debuffs because I have no idea if Protect and Shell impact item damage in FF12, so I figured better safe than sorry. Eventually though, it does die. We didn't really get close to a loss in my opinion. Even her ultimate attack only did a few hundred damage, which was a little surprising. It just took some time and items, which of course means even more time for item farming later. Lots of item farming. But before that, we sadly have yet another boss when we get to Baomasace, which I completely forgot about, kinda. Wish I item farmed before this. Now I play a gamble here. Firstly, I of course kill the ads with a bunch of Aeriga motes and I dispel, Shell and Protect from the judge. Then I spam Aeriga motes. I don't really want to risk them all, but I'm pretty sure we can go back to Wraithwell's tomb to farm more. I think so. I do the unthinkable. Kinda like how we all save elixirs for the final boss and then never use them. I spam my Aeriga motes like I'm never gonna need them again, simply because I have nothing that even comes close to them damage-wise, since I used all my knots. Sure, I have that lone Meteorite D left, which can do insane damage, but in this kind of run, that's my elixir. We're saving that until we hit some kind of completely impassable wall. Anyway, with the good old judge defeated, our next step is going to be Arcades, and if I remember correctly, I can't actually backtrack once I get there, so we're going to go all out right now on our item farm, revisiting all the places we need to refill our items. Fun fact as well, in Mount Baomasace, right outside the temple, there is a treasure chest that can spawn, and of course all the items are terrible. except for the rare item with a diamond armlet equipped. It's a dark energy. Now, anybody who knows FF12 just raise their eyebrow to that. Why? It's hands down the most broken thing in the entire game, doing 50,000 fixed damage to everything visible on screen. Sounds amazing, right? Let's farm 99 of them, yeah, and breeze through the rest of the run. No. No. The chest has 5% spawn chance, 80% chance for Gil, and then of course the remaining item is rare, so a 5% chance. All in all, that means we have a 0.05% chance to get this item, or a 1 in 2,000 average chance. Make no mistake, that does not mean I'm going to get one in 2,000 attempts. I know some people struggle to understand chance, but no, I could attempt this 1,000,000 times and not get one. It's always a 1 in 2,000 chance. Fun fact, I put this into AI and asked it how long it would take me to get 99 dark energies if each farm attempt took 30 seconds. Well, on average, that would be 1,650 hours, or 69, nice, days of non-stop farming. That's no sleeping, no eating, no toilet, nothing but continuous, never-ending farming. This is also best case, assuming I always get one in 2,000 attempts as well. Also, while recording for this, I will admit, I 100% had a mini heart attack when the treasure chest actually spawned. I legit thought I maybe had a chance at one. Now, I will get one, and only one. But I'm going to do this with RNG manipulation just to show it off. However, make no mistake, this is not an RNG manipulation guide. I and many other creators have dedicated guides to manipulating the RNG in this game, so if you are curious, by all means go and check those videos out, as this is a challenge run, and explaining how to properly manipulate the RNG will easily make the next 15 minutes incredibly boring. But hey, if you want PowerPoint presentations and challenges in the future, let me know. I will, however, clarify this is the only time I have used RNG manipulation. No, it is not cheating, it's simply knowing how the game mechanics work and interact with each other. Every other item I have obtained this run has been through sheer will and dangerous levels of caffeine. Now, let's talk about other items we can get during our refill and advancement to Arcadia. Mossfron High Waist, Diamond Armors, and Black Garb, along with Dragon Shields, and yes, I got insanely freaking lucky with getting a Diamond Armor and a Black Garb in one run. Salika Woods has Vanishing Emote. We're also going to fight the King Bomb as well, and sadly I wasted a bunch of items here, including my Meteorite D, because it knows Renew. A skill that instantly refills its HP to full, and when it's below half health, it has an insane 25% chance to use it. It however has 37,500 HP, so I'm going to weaken him first, and then use my Meteorite D on him. If the Meteorite doesn't do full damage, I reset and try again. Sadly, this is the only way I have to really kill him. It took a few attempts, but we eventually got him at the cost of our clutch item. Then, Fun Coast has Crystal Shields. And now I'm going to do something very dumb. We're going to the Necrol of Nabadis to get some Hastig emotes, Bubble, Scathe, and Holy emotes. All at a lovely 1% chance. I know, great odds, huh? Did I mention everything in here is extremely lethal as well? These chests freaking suck though, only having a 30 to 35% chance to spawn. At least the Gil amount is very low. Can also get some semi-decent armor, but I'm not going to try for that. Likewise, I'm not interested in a lot of the moats just because of how insane it would be, at least right now. Because of the previously obtained gear as well, I'm changing my original plan for second jobs. I'm actually going to use classes like Ulan, which have good HP and can use heavy armors for great defense. Once all of this is done, we get to move on to Sochin Cave Palace. And yes, I forgot the down key, just like I did in the randomizer in my 100% run and in my streams. I know, I suck. Once I backtrack for it, it's time for some bosses like Mandragoras. Well, they're kinda just onions in this game. Now we start off with our new gambit system upgrades, aka removing the fluff items. We have a decent amount of items now. We have good gear finally. Only took 70% of the game, and so now we can clean up a bit. Remove the bad items, fix our healing correctly, etc. So they can't actually do much to me. Likewise, I kill a few with Airiga, and then they start immuning it, so I mix in a Scathe or two, basically just to check the damage and kill off the remaining ones who can be hurt by magic. I'm constantly getting hit with status effects while doing this though, so Fran is working overtime on cleansing them. At this point, I have to swap over to Knots of Rust for the final few though, as I needed physical damage. We do have to be careful now though. The items I have, like the Scathe motes, I want them to last the rest of the game. This means when I'm not in a boss, I have gambits turned off, except for Fran. I don't want to waste even a single item. They're way too hard and time consuming to farm now. As for wasting items, that's exactly what the next boss made us do. Aramon was freaking awful. I wasted X potions, Phoenix Downs, which it's immune to, Scathe motes, Holy motes. I wasted so many items, it's unreal. In the end, I weakened it a lot with X potions before it divided way too many times. So I went back to Scathe motes simply because it's AoE, but it was slow and took way too many. I just wasted literally hours worth of items in just minutes. And it hurts my soul, as these are items I'll never get back. And naturally, I was cleansing confused with remedies whenever it came out. I hate this boss. The fact it dodges so damn much by vanishing is unreal. But hey, at least we're done with it and we can move on. And if I remember correctly, I think Sid is next, and I can't remember him being that bad really. Is that famous last words? I don't know. Let's go find out, I guess. So, Sid and his army of rooks. They like healing him and buffing him, so the spell motes get used quite a few times here. I do try to kill the rooks, but don't have much success, so in the end we focus Sid. He has a weakness to holy motes, so majority of the time I just let the gambits use the few that I have, since we can get some more coming up. Fran is happily healing away in her little corner as well. Ultimately, nothing really happened in this fight, like nothing. It was dull. I kind of just sat there after the first minute and let the gambits do the work. We were not even close to dying or anything, so just had to wait for Sid to die on us. Once that's done, we have a mountain of cutscenes to skip, including the weird creepy alien god thing one. At least I think they're considered gods. I don't know, I can't remember. I remember exactly 0% of the lore in this game. Gameplay is fun, but the story has always bored me, if I'm truly honest. Now we get to the fun part though, Bolfenheim and the Cherubi Steep. Now, fun fact, we can actually get pretty much all the best items and equipment in the game here. The catch? Insanely terrible RNG. But we can get stuff like Dark Energy, Dark Matters, Megalixirs, way too much equipment to list, but includes things like the Maximilian, Grand Helms, Brave Suits, etc. This is the holy land for this run for two reasons. Firstly, we don't have access to steel, which means the gear we can obtain is limited. Secondly, remember way back when I talked about the rules? We're going to try trial mode. So this right here is where we're going to get the equipment from to do that. Most of it, anyway. Likewise, we're going to farm up Dark Energy here, Dark Matters, etc. Now, what I will say is, we're going to do this using RNG manipulation. Some might argue cheating, however, once again, manipulating RNG is done entirely in-game by just abusing mechanics. It's no different to cheesing something with knowledge. And also the fact I don't want to spend 6 years doing this, as pretty much all the items we want from here range from 1 in 800 chance to 1 in 2000 chance. So yeah. I'm also going to backtrack to a bunch of areas just to refill my items as we're getting close to the end of the normal game now. Okay, now make no mistake, even with RNG manipulation, this last farm took weeks. Literally multiple working weeks to do. But we kinda had no choice. After all, we only have Giravegan and Ridioronia Coast left, that I can remember right now anyway. So this item grind is pretty much the final grind of the game. Also, I'm not going to be using my dark energy or dark matters on story bosses, don't worry. While we're progressing though, let's talk about these two items. Dark energy is a flat 50,000 damage within a huge area. Honestly, it's awesome for clearing areas, but the truly special one is dark matter. You see, dark matter gets its damage from knots of rust. Basically, dark matter takes the entire damage we've dealt with knots of rust, adds it all up, and then the total becomes that dark matter's damage. But there's a catch. It's only for the first dark matter. Once you use one, the pool is completely empty, and we need to increase the damage again by spamming knots. Now, me being me, I wasted a dark matter as I forgot it empties. This means my dark matter damage is pitiful and I need to rebuild it again. It's okay though, that's going to happen naturally as we progress anyway. So, Giravegan. But on the way to that, we have a boss with Rafflesia. A very easy but also very difficult boss. Sounds confusing, I know. But long story short, this thing can inflict a boatload of status effects on us, and it can summon Marlboro ads. The good thing though is it and the Marlboros it summons are weak to wind, which means our Aerogramotes decimate it and the ads as soon as they spawn. Sadly, we did get hit by pollen though at the end, which confused Von, who proceeded to very nearly murder Thron. Now, I don't count this as a challenge fail because the boss never took damage from anything that wasn't an item. Only my own characters did, so I'm ruling it's allowed. Now, we have a moral dilemma though. Getting through the illusions is fine and no issue. We don't even need to heal thanks to getting good gear previously and not trying to fight. The problem is at the end of the area, to get into Giravegan, we need the power of a Gigas to open the door, aka we need to summon Belias, which means using the summon command. Now, we're going to allow this for two reasons. Firstly, we never fail a challenge based solely on story mandated and forced instances. The second reason is all we actually do is summon him. He doesn't do anything and doesn't hurt any mobs. He is summoned and then we instantly interact with the door. If you disagree with this ruling though, comment down below and let me know. Once we're in though, we are greeted by an instant boss, the Deadless. Now, he applies haste straight away and is both simple but strong. He only has his basic attack, but he does have AoE and is strong. In fact, strong enough, he gets close to one-shotting the whole party. Fran is on non-stop healing duty here. Balthier is wasting my Phoenix Downs because the boss's class is undead, and Von is throwing Holy Motes for a nice 5k each. I do notice what Balthier is doing though and swap over to him and manually start using Holy Motes as well, but he does a little less damage than Von. At this point, I also realize a mistake. I need to equip the Bubble Bolt from the treasure chest in the previous area, since more HP means more damage. At least, I think motes will increase based on current HP. Maybe. I don't know if they only scale off my stat hard cap, so I don't know if Bubble will impact it or not. I kinda hope it does, as believe it or not, this is actually a huge difficulty spike here. We can't just rely on gambits, and we're going to have to manually interfere and make selections a lot now. This also means bosses are going to get a lot harder. This is why for the next boss, Tyrant, I actually pre-buff with haste before the fight even starts by throwing out a haste emote. And it's a good job I did. This guy hurts and sadly is immune to tons of damage. So I had to create a new gambit on the fly for Van and Balthier to only use shock motes. They do less damage than Scathe, but they're faster and honestly less important than Scathe, so I'll sacrifice them first. Fran is on permanent healing duty with me manually throwing out X potions when Tyrant decides he really doesn't like somebody, or when he uses Graviger on me, which actually happened a few times. In fact, Von would have died multiple times if it wasn't for the bubble bout. Not only did this fight take the longest so far, but it's also here now where I really need to pay attention and jump on things as soon as they happen. Once he eventually goes down though, we get to the worst freaking area in the game. In fact, I think a lot would agree it's probably the worst area, or at least top 5 worst areas in all of Final Fantasy, the Great Crystal. I don't usually call for genocide, but seriously, whoever planned this area and who agreed upon said plans should be put on trial for war crimes. Even following a pictured guide, it took me 10 minutes to get through this place, and I still got lost following a map. Anyway, after a little rage session, we get to the next boss, Shamhazi. Now, once again, the boss is immune to my fang items, so I turn those gambits off. And this time, I actually decide to use Knots of Rust while Fran heals. It actually starts pretty well, lots of high damage rolls, and thankfully, Shem doesn't have insanely stupid HP, so it's not gonna take ages. While throwing knots at him though, I do make sure to grab the chests, as this gives me another hasting emote to make up for the one I used on Tyrant, and then I also get a reverse mote which will hopefully come in handy later during some trial mode stuff, or even against the final boss. Ultimately though, this wasn't too bad of a fight. Shem just kind of throws spells at me which Fran can heal me with, although my high potions are getting a little low, but at least I can buy some more shortly. Now it's off to Pharos, aka Ridorania. Here we can stock up on X potions again from treasure chests, as they're pretty damn common here now. But before we even get inside, we have a boss, Hydro. And make no mistake, this guy is a whole different ballpark to what we've seen before. Firstly, I fully prep beforehand. This means haste, reflect, and vanish. My entire offense comes from holy motes when I could actually use them anyway. It's not fair to say that, as I got quite a few off at first, but then I realized once again Fran's gambit is wrong, as I start to get absolutely slammed, especially once he starts to inflict statuses on me. At this point, I had Fran reviving, healing, I had Von reviving and constantly throwing X potions, and I had Redis throwing out some remedies. The big issue here was Sap followed by Hydro doing huge combos on me. I'm talking like 8 hits plus, all for 500 to 800 damage each. Insane damage from him, which high potions just couldn't keep up with. I think really I need to just get rid of that gambit entirely and change Fran to an X potion. Anybody below 70% HP. Remedy anybody with a status effect, and revive anybody dead. Can't remember if there's a negative status gambit though. I think it only has ones for specific statuses. I'll have to check that after the boss. Redis did also end up dying. Von got close multiple times, Balthier died, and Fran was just stood there looking pretty. This was almost a game over multiple times, but we managed to pull through by the skin of our teeth for the win. Now, in Pharos, we need to kill 3 mobs and grab black orbs that they drop so we can place them in the altars to advance to the next floor, aka the next boss. Pandemonium, a giant turtle. My new gambits, now that I'm not being stupid, are great. Remedies go out on status effects, X potions are used for proper healing, and now all 3 characters are getting some damage out. We also use Error emotes here as Panda is weak to wind. He does get a perfect barrier for a little, which means he takes no damage for a few turns, but it doesn't last all that long. One of the problems we do have though is Fran is only set up with Scathe and Shock motes. We ran out of Shock motes almost as soon as the fight starts, so sadly one of my strongest motes is almost gone, and I only have about 10 holy motes left and about 80 Scathe motes. I think we're in trouble for the rest of the run, and I might need to do one more item grind. I'm hoping not, but we'll see. On the second floor, we need to waste more items killing brain pans, aka mobs with green flames on their head, as that creates a bridge, and we need to avoid killing the Dadars, as that destroys the bridge. It's basically the biggest middle finger to me in this kind of run, where item management is so important. The game decides we need to go kill a huge bunch of mobs. Each one also has over 15,000 HP, and I need to kill a lot. This is going to murder my motes. So before heading up, I go and refill my holy motes, simply because I have no idea if the kills will remain after I leave the lighthouse or not, so I'd rather do it all now instead of waste all my items, be a few kills off, leave to refill, and then find out I need to kill them all again. Just a shame we don't have the elevator yet. This is either going to be a case of me being a super giga brain or the world's biggest idiot, and I'm sure the most upvoted comment will be the answer to this question. This is also now where I go all out on Fran's gambit, which I'll show off a little later, as we'll be going massively in depth with it soon. I was hoping to save my Boltero seeds for trial mode, but well, things are starting to hurt a lot, and healing items are being used in much bigger quantities now. So in the middle section of the lighthouse, the first half is straightforward and we can run through with gambit as normal. Which, honestly, thinking about it, this was absolutely the worst idea, since the bird mobs there are also weak to holy, which means I wasted a ton of holy motes for no reason. We can safely leave gambit on in the first half because there's actually no red flame mobs which destroy the bridges, so it's pretty casual, this part is. The second part, however, is not. Red flame mobs are here, which we can't kill, so I'm careful now and leave gambit turned off and manually turn them back on when there's no red flame mobs here. If there is, then I manually use modes. This is, however, a square area where we need to actually respawn some mobs to kill, as you need too many kills to get the bridge to the required length with only one spawn of mobs. Once we get to the next section though, I heal and save and also cry inside. That entire little event of having to kill the green flame mobs completely killed my item count. All my holy motes are gone. My knots of rust are gone. My Scathe motes are being broken into heavily, and about half of my shock motes are gone. This is very, very, very bad for me, especially because we have 2 more tower bosses and then 3 bosses at the top of the tower. One of which is now actually Slit, and well, I mean, it was there, I guess. Honestly, this is probably one of the easier bosses in the whole game, and there really isn't much to talk about here in all honesty. Nothing really happened other than wasting some items. Thankfully, we can use the lift to go back to the lower floor now, but I still hate the idea of even more item farming. Thankfully, we aren't forced to kill anything during the next stage, so we're just going to kind of run through to the next boss, Fenrir, the giant kitty cat with one hell of a sword. I preempt this fight with buffs from Boltero seeds just before we enter the boss room. Then we begin the item spam. The fight starts off very straightforward until the boss casts bravery on itself. Now it's doing between 1000 and 2000 damage to me. I can mostly ignore it thanks to Bubble, and then when my health does drop down, Fran is there with some X potion spam to heal me back up. It wasn't actually needed all that much though, because Fenrir, just like an actual cat, had 0 focus and kept changing who he was aggro to, which means the damage was very nicely spread out, while I proceeded to spam my Scathe and Shock motes for the win. The downside now though is we have 33 Scathe motes and 40 Shock motes, with 3 more bosses to do. This is going to get problematic, At least now though, the lift is active for me to leave if need be, but I'm not going to. We're going to try with the items we have, and if push comes to absolute shove, I do have the meteorite Ds. I screwed up though. The lift can't take me back down, only up. Lovely. So I guess I'm actually forced to continue anyway. Thankfully, the next boss, Hashmal, is actually weak to wind. This means aerial motes are used and my precious scathe motes can be saved. Naturally, I also pre-buff with Baltero seeds, and the regen is actually enough healing for the first half of the fight. The second half, however, it absolutely isn't. Balthier ends up dying really damn fast, and Fran just can't keep him alive. She does revive him and top him up though, but when she does, it's kinda largely unneeded as Erigamotes are doing insane damage, and Hashmal is pretty much dead by time Balthier is revived. A few more motes is all that's needed at this point. Now though, we have technically three bosses. Gabranth, followed by Sid and Famfrit. Really hoping we have enough items, but let's go. Now, Gabranth is actually super easy, really weak, and has very little HP in general. He starts to go down really fast. The only problem is once we get to the halfway point, he becomes completely immune to magical damage, and that's all the items we have. I have no knots of rust left, so I'm actually forced to use some meteorites on him. This is kind of annoying as I really didn't want to use them with how strong they actually are. But as we totally could have won this if I went back out and grinded items after Hashmal, I'm just gonna allow the usage. Sid again, super straightforward, but I would like to ask where on earth he keeps all his giant weapons. Like, dude just pulls them out of thin air, and he has two. A freaking minigun and some kind of sci-fi railgun. Again though, first stage, super quick and easy. Then he summons Famfrit though, and this thing is a freaking HP sponge. This is where I completely run out of scathe and shock motes. Water heals him and he's weak to fire, but my fire fangs don't do any damage. Yay! He also has an insane 150,000 HP, which means with my current item count, I am forced to use Meteorite again, since he's immune to every other element that I actually have available. So the only other way is again if I left after Hashmal and farmed more scathe motes, shock motes, and knots of rust. Then, once he's dead, we're back to Sid. This is where I really didn't want to use my meteorites again. The problem? I actually ran out of items. Kinda. I spammed items for ages on him, doing nothing more than tickle him. Most of them deal damage other than dark motes, but I wouldn't have had enough to kill him due to the extremely low damage. After about 10 minutes, I gave up and just used meteorites on him. Ultimately, I'm disappointed in how this fight went. I really did not want to use meteorites, but I just couldn't stomach another item grind before the boss when I knew I'd have to do one again anyway, ready for the final bosses. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I'm all grinded out on FF12 now. The insane levels of RNG required for things and spending ages just zoning in and out of areas hoping for the lottery win, it's totally different to grinding mobs in other titles, and it becomes honestly a huge drain. Maybe I'll redo this fight in the future with a proper item count for scathe, shock, and knots, as it should honestly play out the same, just it will only take a little longer. Anyway, we now have one final item grind ready for Sky Fortress Bahamut, the final zone of the game, and then for trial mode after. That's right, we're gonna do it shortly. First though, we have Gabranth, Vayne Novus, and the Undying left to fight. These are the final story bosses now, and hey, we made it this far with no fails. Firstly though, for Gabranth, I make 100% sure to use a reflecting emote on him. Yes, him. Why? He has Renew, and I would much rather he hit me with that than himself, since it would fully heal him after all. So we start the fight fully buffed, and then I apply Reflect to him before spamming Aeriger modes. I did have to turn the Dark Mode Gambit on Van off, as I completely forgot to do with that beforehand, and Gabrov really doesn't like Fran or Balthier. In fact, he focuses 99% of his attention on those two. We do get him down to 50% health pretty fast though. This is where we get a little cutscene and he readies his ultimate move, Innocence. Before that though, he screws me with Renew. Not sure how it went off considering he should have had Reflect. Only thing I can think of is the cutscene cleansed him, but I quickly reapply it to him and then go back to spamming Aeriger modes. This is where he gets a little more aggressive as well. So Fran has to really start spamming X potions, especially since he likes to spam his ultimate move here. And naturally, just before he dies, he decides to take Balthier out with him. After the fight, I revive, heal up and rebuff before we head out for the most cinematic battle this game has. First up, Vayne, and Larsa is here as an uncontrollable guest character, and well, we can't have him doing anything to help us, so I casually murder him. I also have to play around with my gambits in this fight a bit. Vayne has 76,000 HP and can combo an insane amount. He's basically a male Tifa. So Bubble is insanely helpful here, likewise, so is Fran healing me. Now, aside from Vayne being able to punch the very fabric of space and time apart, it's actually not too difficult of a fight. All our troubles actually come in the second phase with Vayne Novus. He has over 100,000 HP now, has tons of AoE, and becomes immune to magic at 65% HP for what felt like forever. Oh, and he heals. He also loves wasting time with insanely flashy and really over-the-top attacks. This is where I murder all my remaining Aeriger motes, a huge amount of Knots of Rust and Shock motes, along with a few Scathe motes as well. My X potion count is also dwindling very fast, but eventually he goes down. I am, however, insanely crippled on items right before the final boss, the Undying, a super powered up version of Vayne. He now has 228,000 HP, alternates between physical and magical immunity, tons of flashy attacks like Giga Flare Sword and Terra Flare, which thankfully he only used once. We were also extremely lucky that statuses didn't play a huge part of this fight. There were also 2 easy Dark Matter chests in the Bahamut and in Pharos. This is where I used them. One pretty quickly in the fight, as we've built the damage up by now, and then the other, sadly, a little too soon, as it only did about 10,000 damage. I should have waited until I completely ran out of Knots of Rust, but live and learn. Thankfully, our gear is really good though, and the damage I was taking was pretty manageable. It eventually came down to actually just waiting for him to not be in magical immunity mode, as I ran out of items pretty much. At the end of the fight, I think I had very few Scathe motes left, but ultimately he did die. We beat Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age, with only items. We're not done yet though, we still have trial mode to do. But first, how long did it take for the story? Well, here's a look at my stats upon loading my last save before Vayne, because no way am I farming items again. Yes, that's right, nearly 400 hours and over 9 million steps. Is that the whole story? No. No, this doesn't include all the resets when my RNG goes terrible, when item farming. It's honestly probably closer to the 500 mark. I wouldn't be surprised if it's even on the higher end of the 500s. Now, since we're going to do trial mode, let's talk gambits. Fran and Balthier have some healing and buff items, but mostly AoE motes like Scathe and Aeriger. Van has mostly damage items, Scathe, Meteorite, etc., and then finishing off with Dark Energy. Now, some might think this is cheap, using Dark Energy, but in this run, it's literally required. Trial mode stage 100 has us against 5 judges with a combined HP pool of over 1 million HP on its own. That's not counting all the other stages before then, like Zodiac, Yzmat, and Omega, from stages 97 onwards. Omega alone has over 1 million HP. Yeezman has nearly 4 million, and Zodiac has a measly, unimpressive 330,000. Now, do you see why we need Dark Energy and Meteorite D's? So, let's do it. The ultimate challenge. Now, the early stages are obviously pretty quick. I use Scathe mode before I realize I'm dumb and need to conserve items, so I swap over to Aeriga modes first, and only Von is using them. For bosses, I use Meteorite as we have a 50% chance for that to do 30,000 damage. We adopt this strategy through most of the floors. I even managed to get to stage 43 before I run out of Scathe and Aeriga modes. Holy modes run out at stage 49 before running out of Knots and Shock modes by stage 53. This is where I swap to spamming Dark Energy, with good success actually. That is, however, until we get to stage 68, where a field effect is active. Items are blocked. That's right, we can't proceed because items are completely blocked and we have no way to remove the effect, which means we can't finish trial mode as we cannot pass this stage. I will admit, I am low-key gutted, but also slightly annoyed. Not because we couldn't do it, but because we failed on round 68. Just for the meme purposes, I honestly wish we could have at least got to stage 69, as that honestly would have been hilarious. So, can we complete Final Fantasy XII using only items? Yes. Yes, you can. It's actually only kind of difficult at the start of the game as well. The real trouble comes from farming items and equipment with horrible RNG. Now, make no mistake, there are players out there who I'm sure know FF12 completely inside and out, who could probably do this run in a fraction of the time and way more efficiently than me. But sadly, trial mode is not possible. So, with that, make sure you subscribe if you aren't already, turn that bell on and drop a like. I'm also curious who's still here at the end of the video. If you are, then leave a comment just saying Knots of Rust. Then check out Linktree for all my links to all my other challenges, which are also in the playlist right at the top of the description. Until next time though everybody, thanks for watching and I'll see you soon.